Well, the hit list keeps coming, folks. So example number 3. Now, we're going to change these. And by the way, it looks like all of these equations are in general form, and we're going to change them into slope-intercept form. But rather than trying to memorize how we can change one form into another, it is really important that you identify what form you want to take it into, right? So slope-intercept form is this. Now, we talked about general form. Let's talk about what slope-intercept form looks like in terms of algebra. Now, m can take on any value and b can take on any value. But what really sets apart the slope-intercept form is y is all by itself to one side. That and the coefficient in front of the y is 1. So basically, we get y all by itself to one side. So that's going to be our strategy going forward here. So we are going to probably, I'm just going to write this down, maybe isolate y. That's it. And if you want, we'll get there, trust me. Example number 3a. (2x plus y minus 5 is equal to 0. So I'm just going to keep y all by itself over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2x to both sides, and subtract 5 to both sides, and I'm done. In other words, you may want to say, well, 2x, I want to move it over to the other side. How do you do that? Well, it becomes negative 2x on the other side. Simply, you're subtracting 2x from both sides. And how do you move 5 to the other side? Well, you subtract 5 to both sides. Is this in y is equal to mx plus b? Absolutely. Now, can I tell you the beautiful thing about this? Graph that, and you'd be like, I have no idea. But now, graph this, totally doable. Wonderful. So often we get a form that we don't like or doesn't agree with us or doesn't answer the question that is being sought, so we have to change it to a different form. All right. Now this is a little bit different. Y is equal to mx plus b. So this is slope-intercept form, which we love. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the y's. So this 4y stays over to this side. So 4y, there's no need to do anything. Now, I need to, air quotes, hold math nose here, move 3x and negative 8 over to the other side. I do this by subtracting 3x to both sides and adding 8 to both sides. So maybe I'm going to annotate that, subtract 3x, add 8. Add 8. Now this is to both sides. Is this in slope-intercept form? Not yet. If you notice, y is equal to mx plus b, but the coefficient in front of the y is 1. Here I have a coefficient of 4. So I'm only concentrating, I'm so close on that left-hand side, so how do I get rid of that 4? Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Now, the left-hand side of the equation, 4y divided by 4, is just y. Now, I want to help you out or help you remember. This is division, for example, if it was 2 times negative 2x plus 4, what would you do? You'd have to distribute that multiplication. But here, it's division. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to distribute that division. We just do it, maybe it looks a little bit different. So I have 3x, and instead I'm going to say 3x divided by 4, plus I have to divide both terms by 4. Now, this turns out to be y is equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 2. So I'm just going to finish, so I divide both sides by 4. And I'm just going to say distribute division on right-hand side. And that's it. I'm done. So perhaps you're wondering, and you're saying, well, Mr. Morin, I had negative 3x all divided by 4, and you have negative 3 over 4x. Well, it's just really the same thing. You can simply factor out all the constants, and it would just be negative 3 over 4x. Hopefully this makes sense. Let's go on then. Let's destroy some more. I'm feeling pretty confident. Well, sort of was feeling confident. All right. Now, I'm going to tackle this. Keep in mind that I'm going to keep y over to the left-hand side. So really, I have negative 2y. I'm going to subtract 4x to both sides. I'm going to subtract 5. In other words, how do I move 4x to the other side? You have to subtract 4x. And how do you move positive 5? You have to subtract 5 to both sides. The next step I'm going to do is, Now remember, what am I doing? I always find it really helpful that if I write y is equal to mx plus b. Now, this helps me because really the only rule here is isolate y to one side and make sure you do math correctly. Easier said than done. I've completed my first step of isolated y to one side, and I did so by subtracting negative 4x and negative 5 to both sides. All right. So the next thing, wouldn't it be nice if this was just y? Well, I have a coefficient of negative 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And remember that kind of important, negative 2y divided by negative 2 is just simply y. 4x minus 5 divided by negative 2. Well, I'm going to distribute that that division. So I distribute it exactly like this. All right, this is going to be kind of fun. Now, although I wrote my purple equation like this, I think of that purple equation as this. And it's these little thoughts that really help out in math, right? So, if you notice, I'm computing the numbers. So now y is equal to negative 4 divided by negative 2. Well, that's 2x. And then minus, well, what's negative 5 over 2? Well, that's just negative 5 over 2. And I know that subtracting a negative is adding a positive. So really, my equation is y is equal to 2x plus 5 over 2. I'm hoping this is making sense here. It feels like I'm flying by the seat of my pants in terms of I'm just doing math, but it's just one really important idea, and then I have to use my balancing strategies to steer me towards that idea. And that idea is a very powerful one, and that is y is equal to mx plus b is the slope-intercept form. The requirement for it is that y, the coefficient for y, has to be 1. So basically, I just put y's to one side. So here I subtracted 5x and added 18 to both sides. notice how 5x and 18 sort of disappear from one side, but then reemerge from the other side, having opposite sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by -6. And I choose to write this out because it is a very difficult thought. Anything a little bit more difficult, I choose to show my work. There. Perhaps you didn't like that. Perhaps you would like it to look like this. Right? So what can I say here? Well, I can divide both sides by -6. Then I'm going to distribute that negative sign. Or sorry, distribute division. Do you see how these complicated thoughts are just changed into much smaller, simpler thoughts? I do have y isolated to one side. Now I'm going to write, although it's -5/6, this is what I'm actually thinking, -5/6x. Think of the constants. -5 divided by -6 is +5/6, x. Then add plus 18 divided by -6 is -3. Well, this is almost cleaned up, isn't it? So instead, I'm going to write it as y is equal to 5/6x, and plus -3 is the same as simply subtracting 3.